everyone, welcome back to Reading with Tatiana. I'm sorry because I haven't been so active in the booktube community recently. Life just happens. I'm just enjoying my life and also reading some books, but just not having a lot of time watching videos. So I really appreciate everyone that watches and comments my videos. I try to return the favor, but I just feel bad because I'm definitely not as involved or even like checking out new booktubers, and I'm sorry for that. But it is the mid-year, and I saw everyone posting this tag, the mid-year Freakout booktube tag, and I had to join in. No one tagged me this year, and I'm not going to tag anyone because I don't want to pressure people or pass it along when I'm barely even passing it along myself right now in terms of booktube. But I want to do it because I figure that, or I find that it's kind of fun to do a check-in mid-year, because at the end of the year when you do a year in review, it can be overwhelming because for me, there could be like 50, 60, a few dozen books to kind of reflect back on. But during the mid-year right now, as of today, I've only read 32 books, so it's more manageable and it's more fun to reflect on what I've read so far, and also kind of reflect at December on what has changed. So this is my mid-year Freakout booktube tag. So please, watch, comment down below, and if you want to do it, please do this video, tag me so I can watch your video at least. So the first video is best book you've read so far in 2023. So similar to last year when I had Beasts of a Little Land, that I knew was my favorite as soon as I read it. This year, this book, I've read it back in I think May or April. I already know it's going to be my top 10 book of 2023. So it's Peach Blossom Spring by Melissa Fu. This book is a historical fiction book set in China, spans through like the 40s to 2000s, goes from China to Taiwan to US, and it's just freaking amazing. You just follow this family and this diaspora, and it's just written so beautifully. I read it in like 2 sittings, and maybe because I was traveling and I was tired, but I was like crying on the plane while reading this book. It's just great. Number 2 is best sequel you've read so far in 2023. I'm not really a series reader, so my answer for this is at the beginning of the year, I read Claire and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguro, and I loved his style of writing. I loved the premise of the book. It was sci-fi about AI, and it was just really great. So as soon as I read Claire and the Sun, I knew I had to read other of his works right away. So immediately I pick up Never Let Me Go, also by Kazuo Ishiguro. I reviewed all the books I'm mentioning in my channel already, and it was just really good. It was very different, Never Let Me Go versus Claire and the Sun, but they're both kind of sci-fi, and I really enjoyed it, and that's the closest to a sequel I'll ever get. Number 3 is new release you haven't read yet but want to. So this is an interesting question because normally I don't really follow books or follow like new releases and that kind of stuff. However, for this one, there was an author that I read last year, Ashley Aldring. She wrote the book The Push that I really enjoyed. The Push was her debut novel, and she just released her second book called The Whisperers. And I am really excited to read her book because The Push was a thriller and just something that's not really usually something I pick up. It was a book picked by my book club last year, and after reading that book, I'm like, ooh, I really want to read more of Ashley Aldring's work. So The Whisperers is my most new release that I haven't read yet but want to. And then number 4, in true Tatiana fashion, most anticipated release for the second half of the year. I don't have one. I don't really keep up with books that are going to be released. I only keep up with books that have been released recently, or books that are really popular from the past that I want to read. Number 5 is biggest disappointment. This one was my one-star review of the year so far, which is Where Waters Meet by Zhang Lin. I was just disappointed, and then I was disappointed not because I've read her works before, but because the premise seemed so interesting. It was set in Canada. It was, which is where I live in, where I'm from. It had Chinese protagonists, which I am. I'm Chinese. It's about a mom-daughter relationship, which, I really, just hearing Chinese-Canadian mom-daughter relationship, I'm like, that's me. I will relate to this book. And it was just so disappointing. Like, it had so much potential, but it just was executed poorly. The characters were meh. It just wasn't great. I really wouldn't recommend this book, and it makes me so sad to say that. Number 6 is The Biggest Surprise This one was Plot Twist by Bethany Turner, and the reason why is because I had read another Bethany Turner book last December, kind of like for Christmas holiday contemporary romance kind of feel, and that book was just like okay, it was predictable, it was just like very, I don't know, basic I guess, but plot twist in the name, it was very fun. I think I gave this book a 4, almost a 5. I love the premise of it. It was cast in Hollywood, about these writers, about these actors, and like I really could never guess what was gonna happen next. Hence the name Plot Twist, and I thought this was like a really fun book to read. Number 7 is favorite new author, debut, or new to you. Mine is Melissa Fu, who wrote Peach Blossom Spring. It was her debut novel, and it was so freaking good, and I freaking loved it. And I just love her writing style, her story, her characters. It was just so beautiful. Loved it. Number 8 is newest fictional crush. So this one is Lakeside Cemetery. This is a debut author and also a fellow booktuber. I will tag her down below. And this book, I love the owner of a coffee shop where the protagonist works at. He was very sweet, very thoughtful, and I'm like, ooh, if I work at a coffee shop, I would have a crush on this man. He was also very similar to Hugo of The Whispering Door, who also coincidentally is the owner of a tea shop. I don't know, maybe I just am drawn towards people who are owners of small businesses. So if you have a book where there is a love interest who owns a bubble tea shop or shave ice place, link this book down below. Number 10 is a book that made me cry. There are 2 books this year that made me cry so far. First one, as I mentioned before, is Peach Blossom Spring by Melissa Fu, and the second one is When Birth Becomes Air by Paul Kananafi. When Birth Becomes Air talks about, it's a memoir, and he didn't finish his book because he died from his cancer diagnosis. Paul basically was a neurosurgeon. He was in his mid-30s. He was diagnosed with very aggressive stage 4 cancer, and yeah, he just kind of talks about his diagnosis and how it changed his mindset on life. It's a very touching book, and it's very sad. 11 is a book that made me happy, and this is the first book I read this year, which I felt was very coincidental timing because new year, new resolution, new leaf. So this book was a comfort book by Matt Haag. It is a very easy book to read. I feel it's one of those books that you kind of have on your bathroom or your coffee table, and you can just kind of flip to any page to read. And this book was just very nice, very cozy. It really motivated me to kind of start a comfort book for myself, to write down things that bring me joy or bring me gratitude, and I just love this book. Number 12 is the most beautiful book you've bought so far this year or received. I rarely buy books. I'm purely, or I'm not purely, I'm mostly in a library or I download ebooks to read, kind of read, or borrow from the library. But I did buy one book I don't have right now. It is Tomorrow, and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Sevin. This book was just really great. It was very beautiful. It had these like very like Japanese traditional comic anime waves, had really big bold font, and it also was like very tactile. Like all the images and the lettering like raised up. I'll pop up the cover here. It was a very pretty book, and I also love the premise of the book because it's very unique. It was basically spanned about a friendship that spanned like over 2 decades, and it talked about people who design video games. It was just a very interesting book because I had no personal exposure to the video game industry as a player, nor obviously exposure to how video games are created. So I really enjoyed this book. And if you want to read books that aren't necessarily romantic, but kind of are, but it's more about friendship over 2 decades, this is a book for you. And the final question of this tag is, what books do you want to read by the end of the year? For me, earlier this year, I read Ender's Game for the first time finally, and I really enjoyed it. I think that book really sparked my interest in sci-fi a bit more. So my plan for before the end of this year is over, I would love to read the sequel to that book, which is Speaker for the Dead by Orson Scott Card. Thank you for watching till the end of my one-shot-ish. I mean, I kind of like cropped out seconds in between the questions because it's like Siren City right now. But thank you for watching. Hit the subscribe button if you made it till the end, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!